two different types of canvases. This one's pretty thin, and it's about, I don't know, maybe like a centimeter or two, centimeter and a half or so. And this one is about an inch, or it should tell me the size here. One is Artist, the level 3. It comes pre-primed, but I feel like they do a really good job with priming it, because when you're painting, you can't really go through. Like, it's not as flimsy. Now with this one, I already kind of primed it yesterday, so it should be pretty good. Like, but as far as like not moving too much, but if it moves too much, then I've been priming them now, and I am still priming it, so I'm still gonna add another layer of gesso, but it's pretty, it's much better than it was before, so it's pretty firm now. But if it's more flimsy than this, I would do another layer of gesso, which I'm gonna do another layer, and then I'm gonna sand it, because I noticed that when the surface of the canvas is sand, it allows the paint to like flow better. You know, when you're like making fine lines or something, it's like easier and smoother. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add probably like 2 layers and then sand it really good, and I'm gonna attempt to do oil paint. I'm not sure if on this one or on this one that I already have pre-primed over here. This one is going to be acrylics, and I put a very thin layer of gesso with acrylic paint, and that could be another way to prime your paint. You can either just use acrylic paint, and then that will be primed for acrylics or for oil paints. Now this one I didn't add any color yet, because I still want to add a couple more layers of. I ordered a big bucket of gesso, so it should be coming soon. And this one, it's already ready to go. I already primed it, but again, I might add, depending on what I'm going to paint on it, I might add another layer of gesso and sand it down. And you have the option to choose. There's, I think, black, white, or clear. I love the clear one, but I also like the regular white. I just mix it in with a little bit of paint, and I have been doing that now, like adding some paint in the background. It does help when, especially when you're painting, it helps. That way you don't leave any white spots. So like if you miss just a small tiny spot, at least in the background, it already has some color. So either you can fix it or you can leave it as is, which is pretty nice. But when it comes to choosing canvases, I have a hard time if it's not level 3, like if it's not the thick canvases or the ones that are primed like really good, and they have this bar or like a bar going across, I feel like the canvas is not as tight. So you can use, they have some, they're called like keys that you can put in here, and that does help stretch your canvas a little bit. But I have been just adding water, like you damp either a sponge, a towel, brush or something, and just kind of run it through, make sure all the surfaces, and make sure you get the corners here. And then once I do that, I let it dry. Once it's dry, then I go in with my gesso, or you can just go straight with your paint, because it does help harden it. Even if it's not like super a lot, it does help harden it a little bit more. So I am going to do it. I feel like it's still kind of loose, so I want it a little bit more tight. After that, I'm gonna do the same process. Just grab like a wet sponge and just run it through. Not super wet, but make sure it does get everything really damp. I try not to get the wood, of course, but if you do, it shouldn't be a problem. And then the front, I'm gonna do a couple layers of gesso, because it's pretty. I feel like it's pretty thin, so it's not like super prepped fully with gesso. And I have done it with this one. And this one I did do it. You can kind of tell, but this one's level 3, so I didn't have to do too much. I'll make a separate video on how to wire canvases, because sometimes, I mean, right now if it's not heavy, I just have them in like hang in thumb tags. But if it's a heavier canvas, you do want to have them wired, or if you're going to hang it in a gallery. Most galleries do require you to have canvases that have like a wire across. The important thing too is your edges. They do have to be or not, they don't have to be, but I feel they do look more professional if they are one solid color. Like if you don't show this and it's just like, I usually have them black. So when I'm finished with the painting, that's like my last step, is having them black. Once I know if it's going to be a portrait or landscape, then I have to figure out the wiring. So once I do my sketch or something on these, I'm going to go ahead and wire. Once you finish the painting and you have it all like, you know, with oils is really hard too, because like oils take a really long time to, you know, and just having it facing down or something, you don't want to mess up your paint. So you want to try to wire it if possible, before you actually start paint, because I have had it happen where like a little chip would happen, or just something that would mess up the paint itself. So I would make sure you have all of that ready, and if you're going to have it wired, wire it before you actually put paint on it if possible. If not, then you can do it after, but just be careful because when you are facing it down, I mean, depending where you're doing it, it can like rub off on the paint or something, so just be super careful on that.